A lot of 49ers former players have moved on, and the new project for Kris Kocurek, what's going to happen next with 49ers free agency? Stay locked in. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. What's up, 49er fans? I'm Jason Aponte. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. This is today's 49ers afternoon report. And last night I kind of felt compelled to want to go live and talk about all the new players that had left in free agency for the 49ers, such as Charles Omenihu going to the Chiefs, Samson Ebukam as a Colt. Even the 49ers lost out on what I thought was a bit of a security blanket in Arden Key to the Titans as well, too. It's kind of funny that we all really looked at D'Amico Ryans and the Houston Texans as the place where a lot of 49er players would go, but it was Rand Carthon the whole time that was plotting in the corner, and he walks away with more 49ers players so far. He walks away with Azeez Al-Shaair and Daniel Brunskill, and also Arden Key, who he's very familiar with, who actually played with the Jaguars last year. So a lot of 49er fans were panicked in terms of, well, we couldn't bring one of these guys in. Omenihu goes to the Chiefs. Samson Ebukam goes to the Colts. But I think you should point to the contracts. And these guys were getting paid very, very handsomely, right? And this was clearly out of the 49ers budget right now. Wow. Everybody is clearing cap space. We did have Fred Warner's reconstruction done. The same thing with Mooney Ward. And there was one signing today that has people understanding exactly what the 49ers are trying to do, but at the same time, it's not exactly like an eye-popping name. Just seems like something where you're going to get results on a low-end deal with Clayton Ferrell, and we'll talk about him in a bit. But as far as the outward panic of we couldn't bring in Omenihu back, we couldn't get Ebukam back. I mean, if you look at those contracts, that's hard to deal with right there at that point. So Ebukam gets a ton of money from the Colts. And the question I would ask is, what exactly does it say that the Colts wanted to spend more money on Ebukam than bringing back Yannick Ngakoue? Think about that for a second. Think about that. Samson Ebukam, who was very solid for the San Francisco 49ers, was a priority, and they paid him very handsomely over Yannick Ngakoue, who 49er fans are stumbling all over themselves about right now. Just think about that. I just want you to think about that. I think that's a little bit more telling than people are understanding, right? If Yannick Ngakoue is this guy that's going to move the needle, I don't understand. Why wouldn't the Colts prioritize him and bring him back? Something for you to think about. With Omenihu, he was going to get paid. I mean, I think that he showed a bunch of things. He's versatile in and out, inside and outside. The Chiefs pair him next to Chris Jones at times, and they can move him outside as well. Good for him. I'm happy for all these guys that are getting paid, by the way. There's been a little bit of a discussion about, well, are you, for certain players that are going to different teams, right? The Chiefs obviously just won the Super Bowl, so that this doesn't apply to Charles Omenihu. But about, well, don't you care about rings? But necessarily, does every player care about rings? I just don't think that everybody understands that part of it. Not that they don't care, but you know how short your time is in this league. If you have a chance to get a payday and take care of your family, and you're talking about why don't you want to go get a ring? Because that ring doesn't pay you. Teams do. Some players are obsessed with rings, and they'll just go ahead and they'll take a deal and go with other teams. They go with teams and take discounts because they want to chase a ring, and good for them. But I don't fault anybody for going to get money from a team that they're not going to win a ring with to take care of their family. Another part of free agency that's kind of lost. I think fans have in their head that they think every single player wants to win a ring. And sure, there's nothing better in this sport for those players than to be a Super Bowl champion. But you've got to get paid, and you have to get paid. So, but back to Ebukam, Omenihu, the Arden Key thing kind of feels like that was something that was kind of under the radar, where the 49ers might be able to watch his price go down as free agency moved along and be able to bring him back for another 1-year deal for him to up his ante. But Rand Carthan was not letting that happen. And he swooped right in. And he took it. He took it. So kudos to him. The Daniel Brunskill thing is the one that really concerned me the most. And I've been very vocal as to why I thought Daniel Brunskill was important to come back. Right now, you have your center. Fine. Jake Brendel's there. I'm very happy about that. Continuity across the line is huge. Right tackle is still very much a question mark. But the 49ers now have money to possibly look at a right tackle right now, maybe target one in the draft with a trade up. So there's still flexibility there. And there's still always Colton McKivitz, who signed a 2-year deal. Now, when you look at what Daniel Brunskill brings, it's not just the versatility. It's his dependability. 17, 16, and 14 games the last 3 years. That is incredible, man. And that is something that, again, whenever he's asked to do anything, whenever he's asked to pitch in, one offensive lineman goes down, he's ready to go. I just think the role that he has isn't a high-paid role, and it's not something that you have to give a ton of money to, but it's incredibly valuable in terms of roster construction and what the 49ers have. And the problem is that Rand Carthan knew that, and now he can plug him in. So the Daniel Brunskill one was the one that concerned me probably the most, just because now, you know, the backup offensive line, which, again, many teams don't have great backup offensive linemen. That's why they're backups, right? But Brunskill was a little bit different in terms of being able to play all 5 positions and be dependable in big spots. You know, Aaron Banks goes down in Las Vegas. It's okay. Brunskill's there. He just steps right in and he can play next week, give him the week off and get him ready for the playoffs. That type of stuff is invaluable. And that's the one that concerns me a little bit more than, you know, Menahue, all these other guys, right? Like, for me, those guys had a chance to get paid and they did, and that's it. Like, it's a good thing, and I'm happy for them. But they are all rotational. So let's look at the 49ers defensive line, right? Armstead, it'll be Hargrave, it'll be Bosa, Drake Jackson right now, as of now, March 15th, is the other defensive end. You're probably going to see, obviously, the Clean and Farrell thing will move to that, right? You'll probably see a Kerry Hyder come back. You'll probably see Jordan Willis come back, right? Be rotational. Jordan Willis was very good in his time being rotational. But they're really, really depending on Drake Jackson now to take this leap into the second year. And if he does, then they look like geniuses, right? But I still don't think this puts them in a spot where they won't be looking for an edge, either in free agency or targeting in the draft. So there's still a lot of great names out there. So no need to panic. I think right now it's a little bit of lull in the free agency. Like today, we found out Zeke got cut. Jordan Poyer's back with the Bills. Cole Holcomb is with Pittsburgh. I believe Jacoby Brissett just got signed to Washington. It's been a bit of a slow day, and I think you're watching the market develop for these players and their positions at this point. So right now, it's 4:10, the league year. First of all, happy new league year. Right now, I think it just was at 4 o'clock. So technically, the 49ers had to get under the cap. Everybody had to get under the cap and make sure that you're compliant. So happy new league year, guys. We made it. Whole new year just started today, right now, 10 minutes ago. But let's talk about Clean and Farrell, because I see a lot of people asking. So Arden Key was a 3rd-round pick by the Oakland Raiders. And someone who was talented but couldn't really scratch the surface of that talent, really couldn't dig into it. And he, obviously, under Kris Kocurek, got paid by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then that got him paid with the Tennessee Titans. Clean and Farrell was a 1st-round pick, and he was somebody who, I don't want to say that pick was botched, but I wouldn't have picked him there. Mike Mayock, who was the general manager of Oakland, he reached for Clean and Farrell. But he's actually shown something in the run game in terms of run defense. But this is the annual Kris Kocurek project. Get the guy up, get him paid, move him over, and then get him paid somewhere else, right? Like, so it's depth at this point. The name doesn't jump out at you. And sure, you have bad feelings because of how his Raiders time went. But when you think about the success Kris Kocurek has had, betting on traits, Omenihu, Willis, Hyder, Arden Key, right? Like, you have a track record now. This is going to be, if Kris Kocurek can turn Clean Farrell into someone who can contribute on a regular basis and be consistent, this will be his finest work. His finest work. So much of this game has to do with confidence and what you've been able to do. And when you keep hearing you're a bust, you're a bust, you're a bust, oh, you stink, or, you didn't live up to your draft capital, that can really get into your mind and you can lose the confidence to play this game. And now Kris Kocurek has to build that up, build on his traits, and try to get him in a position where he can consistently contribute for this team. This is going to be Kris Kocurek's biggest project. And if he knocks this one out the park, I mean, put him in the circle of 49ers, right? Like, seriously. I mean, it's joking, but it's not joking. The team has shown that they are going to take chances on guys that have traits that they like, that they can develop. And he's going to be a guy that's going to have no pressure coming in. The 49ers aren't looking to him to be this 10-sack guy, in which he had 10 sacks his entire time as a Raider, which is 7 more than Arden Key had his entire time. And then you are looking at him as a guy who can just come in, work his way into the rotation, be surrounded with the most talent that he's ever had around him, and possibly turn his career around. And there's no better guy for the job than Kris Kocurek, man. He's done an incredible job. I mean, the guy, he's interviewing for DC roles, but you've heard him over and over say, I want to do defensive line. He goes, even when I watch game tape and I'm watching everyone, I am focused on the line. This is what he does, man. And if you guys have ever been to camp, practice, anything like that, if you've ever been in the stands, there's a voice yelling louder than everyone. You'll never hear from coach anybody else that's as loud as that, right? It's always Kris Kocurek, always. I remember when we covered the joint practices against the Chargers, 2 years ago? He was on the other field, the other side of the field, where they were running the 11-on-11s with Lance at QB1. And then on the other side was this guy yelling and yelling and yelling. And it's Kris Kocurek hyping up his defense, man. So this is going to be Kris Kocurek's magnum opus, if you will, in terms of developing a pass rusher and getting something out of it. Ronnie Montoya asks, Jason, how do you think this signing will impact the salary cap? I don't think this is going to be a guaranteed money situation, anything like that. And if it is, it'll be minimal money. Maybe they have incentives that they'll be able to hit with this contract. But right now, this 1-year deal that Clinton Farrell is taking is to show everybody that he can still be productive in this league. And if he can, then he'll cash in a la Arden Key, Omenihu, Ebukam, all these guys that they've taken chances on and developed. So I love it. I made a joke, Mike Mayock's punch in the air, but that was his pick, his first pick, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in that godforsaken first 2-year drafts of the Raiders, in which they missed on 7 of 8 picks. But it just makes sense, especially for depth, somebody who can play edge, somebody who's pretty good in the run game. If you can tap into that potential that he had, he shouldn't have gone where he went. He's definitely a product of his expectation was a product of his draft capital, right? Like where you took him. He's definitely not that guy, but he was definitely somebody that could have went late first round, early second, and paid dividends if you look at it that way. So for me, I get it. It's a depth move, and it's something that the 49ers are going to look to in terms of just trying to develop, this comp pick thing. They've already hit their maximum amount of comp picks, 5. That's between the Rand Carthan hiring, D'Amico's hiring, and everybody else. So, yeah, at this point. So, all right. Hey, Boomer Rats over from Brad's stream, SDS Refuge here. Make sure y'all like and sub to my boy Jason. Become part of the Spicy Squad. For sure. 100%. Oh, you back, Jets gang. You weren't here when you was popping all that shit after the first 3 games. And the 49ers went on to make the NFC Championship, and you were talking about Zach Wilson this, Zach Wilson that. But you back. And you know what's funny is there's no trade that happened yet. But I guess congrats. Still ain't going to win nothing. The AFC is way more loaded now. But it's funny how you pop back up now because now Rodgers is there. You might want to change that graphic, pimp. Anyway, when it comes to free agency right now, there's still a ton of what's going on, like in the 49ers can do. There's still a bunch of edge players. There's still, so Darius Slay was actually released, but the problem is the 49ers reached out when he was available in trade, and he shot it down because of state taxes. Now, the problem is this. That's going to be a reason why sometimes when you see players get signed, they get signed for, and you're like, why so much money? Well, because you have to think, like Emmanuel Mosley took $6 million in Michigan goes a lot farther than $6 million in Cali. That's something that I think is a little bit lost in this whole process. Why doesn't he want to play with a winner? $6 million turns into $3 million, and then you have to use that for your other expenses in terms of agent, all this other stuff, and you're left like with how much? $6 million in Michigan probably turns into about 4.5. And if you're saying that, oh, it's just $1.5 million, so many people like me are living check to check, and I'll try to save every single dollar I can. So the state tax thing is really what's kind of in the way sometimes when you get guys. That's why when you see guys sign and you look at their contract and you're like, why did they give them so much money? Why so much guaranteed up front? It's to cover the cost. And I think it was Sin, who's one of our watchers, and she's someone who is a member of the channel. She said she spoke to a realtor in Cali, and the housing market is so high over there. And she said the state tax is the price you pay for great weather. So some people right now, you have to look at, oh, well, he took $6 million to go to Detroit. They're not close to a Super Bowl. Yeah, but $6 million in Michigan goes a hell of a lot farther than $6 million in Cali. And he's trying to take care of his family. So that's the things that you got to kind of work out. So yeah, the Slay thing, he's available for free agency, but it's hard right now to look at the state tax, and that was the hesitance that he had immediately when the 49ers called about Slay when he was available for trade, and he didn't want to go because of state taxes. That's what I've been told. So he's out there. Maybe they want to give him a little bit more money, but they got to figure out a way to restructure somebody else and add more money to this. So that would be great, but at the same time, I don't know. And the Frank Clark thing, again, I think I said it yesterday. The 49ers don't deal with guys who have a checkered past. They've taken chances on guys who are nice guys over talented players with checkered pasts. I just don't know if that's it. Okay, we could talk about this real quick. Bruce says, you think Darnold might get the starting job? Well, I'll say this. It's definitely going to be much more of a competition than people think about. I've had a chance to really think about this, right? And talk to people that I really, 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 respect when it comes to football. And I do think it's closer to a competition than people would like to believe. I do think that if Trey is the guy that we think he is, then it won't be a competition. But again, this organization has kind of told you over and over what they do or what they're planning to do by insulating themselves with more options, hedging their bets, that thing. So do I think he might get the starting job? I mean, he can. If he goes in there and all of a sudden he turns into that guy that everybody thought he would be. I mean, is it likely? Probably not. But I do think it is more of a competition than people want to admit. But that doesn't mean that you need to, that I've lost, faith in Trey, or I think Trey's bad. No. I'm telling you that Kyle Shanahan, while being scarred, like we all are, from straight up losing 4 quarterbacks in the same season, also kind of wants to hedge his bet just in case injury, or just in case Trey doesn't develop into what he thinks he should be. So I do think it is a little bit more of a competition than it is, than people are leading on, that people want to admit, in my opinion. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, they've lost faith in Trey. I think they've just done what they've always done as an organization, bringing Jimmy back for nothing and bringing, drafting Purdy and all these things. It's the most important position. And you could make the argument once Brock Purdy's ready to go, and then we'll have that discussion about him getting the job back, whatever it is, depending on how the season goes. You can make the argument that, these three guys is the most solid room the 49ers have had in a long time in terms of quarterback play. I mean, you would be happy with, Trey or Brock, but if Darnold can show you a little something, it's a reclamation project. It feels like this is Kyle Shanahan's Geno Smith project, where Seattle took a chance. They had Russell Wilson. You let him sit there. It's fine. And then boom, Geno Smith has a great year when you ask him to play. Somebody who was kind of written off, right? Like his whole I didn't write back thing. So I understand that portion of it. I just think that it's a little bit more of a competition than people think. But may the best man win. May the best man win. Let's see. All right. Miguel Ruiz says, your thoughts on how short Brock's leash is going to be? I don't think it's going to be very short. I don't think it's going to be short at all. I mean, every time you listen to someone talk about Brock Purdy, whether it's John Lynch at the Combine, whether it's George Kittle in an interview, whether it's Fred Warner, whether it's Brandon Ayuk, any of them, they really, really, really see him as the guy. They do, right? And the more you listen, it's harder and harder for them to contain that. They've never said anything bad about Trey Lance. Never once. But they've never gushed over him in this way. For me, a lot of the nice things that they've said about Trey are things that we all kind of know. Oh, he's very poised and he's a great leader, and he's wise beyond his years. But then when you listen to these guys talk, they kind of light up talking about Purdy, right? Like the offense and look what we've been able to do, and he can sling it. We got ourselves a quarterback. Those are the things that you kind of hear. So I don't think he's going to have a short leash at all. Brock Purdy would absolutely have to turn into a pumpkin, I think, depending on what happens with Trey Lance, because Trey Lance could just blow everybody away and they say, all right, that's it. We've got our guy who hit his ceiling, what we think. And then Purdy will go into the QB2 role. But Brock Purdy would have to turn into a pumpkin, like an absolute pumpkin. Terrible. I don't think that'll happen. But I do think his leash is going to be fine, right? That's what I'm saying, 187. Fred said Purdy has it. Nick Bosa, we've got a quarterback. So you didn't have a quarterback before. Just all you got to do is listen to these guys. Just listen to them talk. Listen to John Lynch talk. Listen to how he talks about his surgery and everything. Listen to all of them. They're telling you. It's not, you don't have to read between the lines. It's body language. It's inflection when they speak. They light up when they talk about Brock Purdy. He's the guy, I think. I think he's the guy. So, I mean, at the same time, all of this is kind of moot until we find out what Purdy is going to be and what his timeline is going to be and how quickly he can get back on the field and what the other two quarterbacks look like. I think that's the part that we kind of forget. When we're talking about, let's see. I mean, maybe, Tyler, maybe. The one thing I'll say about this, Tyler, is people seem to forget that Seattle game in which Trey broke his ankle. That offense was running up and down the field on Seattle. And it wasn't raining. So there is a lot to that idea. I like that. I wholeheartedly, when I watched back his two drives, they got into field goal range and, the drive stalled out. They took a field goal, but then they were in the red zone again driving. And then unfortunately, Trey breaks his ankle. So again, it's hard to gauge. And I think you're absolutely right. It's just because of how little he's played. And they probably would be saying that about him, but they're saying that about Brock now. So yeah, I 100% agree with that though. Let's see. Corey Soto, thank you for the donation. Free agency isn't over yet and the draft hasn't happened, but I say as of right now, the team has been weakened, especially on defense and no activity on offense. Well, Corey, I would, well, first of all, thank you for the donation. I would say this. On offense, the only way that you can see that they're weakened is how you feel about the quarterback and right tackle, because we just don't know. Other than that, you're returning everyone. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and your entire line, except for right tackle. So it's really about how you feel about the quarterback and the right tackle position if you want to say that the offense has been weakened with no activity. And there is still time. I think your first statement is the correct one. Free agency isn't over yet. It's day 3. It is 26 minutes into the new league year. Happy New Year again, guys. And the draft hasn't happened either. And the 49ers have enough capital right now, especially with all the comp picks that they're going to be getting next year, to move into the second round and target a guy. So it's not done. Now, as far as the team has been weakened, well, I love Emmanuel Mosley and I wanted him back, but he didn't play for about 12 games. Deommodore Lenoir showed something at the end of the year. They still went to the NFC title game without Mosley. How they've been weakened is there's only 3 edge rushers now on this roster. It's Bosa, it's Drake Jackson, and I think it's Alex Barrett. So on the edge, they're weakened, but as a whole defensive tackle, they're obviously better now with Hargrave. Still a lot of time left, though. Still a lot of time left. If you ask me 3 days in, are the 49ers better? I'd say it's about even right now at this point. I would say it's about even. I wouldn't fault anybody for saying, hey, they've been weakened, but I'm not ready to say that they're absolutely better yet. The only reason I'm going to say they're better is this. The NFC is incredibly weak, right? Rams are cooked. Cardinals are rebuilding. Seattle's good, but there's still a gap in between that. Although if they get Jalen Carter at 5, God help us all. The Vikings are selling everybody. The Cowboys are good, but I think we think the 49ers are better. Philly is still good, at least on offense. They brought Bradbury back, but they've lost some people on defense. Green Bay is done. Aaron Rodgers is out. Detroit is good, but the NFC is largely up for grabs still. So in that way, no matter what the 49ers have done in 3 days, they're still at the top of the NFC because of how weak the NFC is right now. So I think that's something that a lot of 49er fans should take into mind right now when you look at it. Oh, we only got Hargrave, but we lost all these guys. Yeah, well, the Packers just lost a franchise quarterback. The Vikings are getting rid of almost everybody and are looking to sell everybody. The Cardinals are completely rebuilding. The Rams are selling everybody at an unreal rate. The Eagles have lost a bunch of people on defense. Dallas is still going to be Dallas. The Giants are, they got Darren Waller. Okay, that's not going to move the needle to make you be afraid of the Giants. So I understand the sentiment in terms of roster, in terms of where your roster is. But in terms of better, the 49ers are still at the top of the NFC. So I think that's the way people should just be looking at it. Let me see. Let me get to some more comments. Thank you for your donation, though, again, Corey. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Lions coming in, Bears. Yeah, I mean, the Bears got some time, though. They need some time. What grade do you give it? I like a B. I mean, at this point, you're just looking at a guy again that Kris Kocurek can develop. I think you bet on those traits, and I'm fairly certain you'll see more production out of him, especially because he's surrounded by all of these studs. So, Tyler, thank you for the donation. Do you see the Niners going after big play Slay? And in the draft, what positions do you think they target? Well, like I said earlier, what I've been told is the 49ers reached out to the Eagles when Slay was available for trade, and he nixed it because of state taxes. Doesn't want to play in San Francisco because of the state tax. So I don't know how that's going to work in free agency. The 49ers would have to drastically overpay to make him feel more comfortable with the state tax. And that's something that, again, you guys have to understand. When you look at contracts and you look at how guys are getting, why did they give him this much money? Why did he get so much money? It's because you have to overpay in Cali to get people to play for you because of the state tax. So, yeah, that's the person that told me that I trust. He nailed the Bradbury thing. He told me he's coming back 220, told me all of that, told me a bunch of other stuff that I was just like, okay, and it all came true. So yeah, it's the same thing. I'm going to kind of go off that information right there. And then in the draft, it's got to be defensive end right now at this point. It's got to be right tackle. The 49ers have enough ammo now to move up into the second round. Just depends on who they bring in. Again, there's still valuable people out there. Someone who I think is kind of lying around, that is somebody who can be a hired gun for a 1-year deal for edge in free agency, Justin Houston from Baltimore. I mean, I know he's older, but he had an incredible year last year. And when you think about what he'll be surrounded with in Kris Kocurek, that's really good. But yeah, at this point right now, the 49ers have kind of addressed all their needs. And now you're in a spot where it'll be corner, it'll be edge, maybe safety, because Deshaun Gibson's on his way out. I like that call too. So yeah, I think Justin Houston is somebody who can come in for a 1-year deal, is going to be chasing a ring. That's kind of where you've got to see the 49ers going at the end of free agency, is guys who are at the end of their time, who still have something in the tank, who aren't necessarily looking for a payday because they made a ton of money over their career and are chasing rings for 1-year deals. And Justin Houston feels like he fits that mold. So that could be a 1-year, $2 million deal, but he gets to run with that defensive line, makes the defense ferocious. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a splash guy. And I know a lot of people have been talking about Zadarius Smith, but Zadarius Smith is under contract with the Vikings. There's still no movement there yet. That would be the dream, but you got to pay him because he's very good. That's the thing, is I think that the 49ers right now are content to kind of let the market develop a little bit more, continue to see who gets cut, who's available, all of those things, because we're still getting news on that while we're in day 3. And then at the end, when there's a bunch of guys who are people are like, well, he's a little too old for us. If it's a team that's like, who's a team like Houston, right? Houston is somebody who's not close to competing. Houston's not going to be in on a Justin Houston. Justin Houston's going to draw interest from teams that need a little bit more from edge that are close to winning. And that's when you'll start to see the 49ers make a little bit more noise when it comes to that. And no, it's not the sexiest of names. And no, it's not the splash names, but you got to pay for those names. You can still find production from Justin Smith after, with 1 year, after what he just did with Baltimore. Let's see. Greatness 54, shout out to you, buddy. The only thing I find concerning is our depth at defensive line and defensive backs thoughts. Yeah, I think they showed a ton of confidence in Demo. They really like what he did. I mean, when you look at what he was allowed in the postseason, I think he allowed 2 catches for like 44 yards or something like that with 2 interceptions. He was great. So they feel good about that. You're fine with Mooney Ward. Hufanga was an all-pro. Tashawn Gibson is somebody who Steve Wilkes is going to rely on. Steve Wilkes is going to run a lot more single high, probably put him up there, allow Hufanga to roam around the box and make more impactful plays in terms of being around the ball for run and maybe short throws and being able to draw the ball out or make plays on the ball. But as far as after that, Samuel Womack had the job for a little while at nickel. Embry Thomas, yeah, they've got to go in the draft and go get corners. And again, maybe there's a corner out there that will come over. Trey Herndon's still out there for slot. There's a corner out there who wants to chase the ring, a nickel corner, something like that. You leave Lenore out there. You solidify with a nickel corner. The 49ers got very, very lucky with what they got out of Gibson last year, and then Jimmy Ward found his way at nickel. So I understand the defensive backs thing, but there's still a lot of time, and I still think they're going to address it one way or another, whether it is in the draft or whether it's in free agency, if not both. And the defensive line, yeah, it's just edge. I think defensive tackle, they're fine, right? Like, they're going to be fine. I think you're like, and I'm glad that Joel asked us, Kerry Hyder, Jordan Willis, I think you see those guys come back. I think you see them come back and be part of the rotation again. It's just people forget how impactful they were in a rotation, and they were very good in stretches during times for the 49ers. So, again, you're going to see an edge. Again, I like the Justin Houston thing because it's a 1-year thing, and you have him as part of a rotation with Drake Jackson, and you can move Willis in there, and you can continue to get pressure with 4 guys. If not, I mean, the best case scenario is that Drake Jackson doesn't allow Justin Houston on the field and turns Justin Houston into like a third down specialist. But if Drake Jackson could be an every down edge across from Nick Bosa, now you're cooking. I think that's what a lot of what the 49ers are going to do is based on what they think they can get from Drake Jackson. And they invested a 2nd-round pick, and I think that's an ardent move. Like, it's really good. Devin says, what's up with Flanagan Fouls? He's probably behind Marcelino McQuarrie Ball. So, I mean, it's, again, like I kind of talked about it yesterday. Greenlaw, Warner, they'll be the 2 on the field. The 49ers are not going to be in base as much because the league is just not allowing people to be in base. Everybody's running 4 and 5 wideout splits. Everything is more open. You can't run 3 linebackers out there. You'll see them on first down, but 2nd and 3rd down, you need a nickel corner on there. So that 3rd position in which Azeez Al-Shaair was kind of phased out of wasn't because he wasn't playing well. It's because you're not going to be in base, and you don't need 3 linebackers on the field. You're going to put yourself in bad spots when you have too many receivers on the field, all of those things. So for me, he's a depth piece. But I know that they really like Marcelino McQuarrie Ball. He's fast. If he can play a little bit more under control, I think he's going to be great. So, Tyler Miller, I want to see more Sam Womack this year. You know what I really enjoyed about Sam Womack? When the job went over to Lenore while Emmanuel Mosley was healthy, he didn't put his head down. He didn't sulk. He worked on special teams. That's what coach wants to see. If I'm not going to be playing you and as a starter, I need to see you compete, and I need you to contribute in other ways. That's what Jordan Mason did. I kept him around. He loved him on special teams. That's why Ty Davis Price was not available certain weeks. It's the same sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that about him. Another year under his belt, another year of understanding things. I think he's far more suited to be a nickel than he was outside. When he was outside in that Atlanta game, kind of gave him problems just because they had injuries in and out of that game. But yeah, I mean, I think another year of it would be good, but we just haven't seen enough to make a fair decision because it wasn't. I never really felt, and you guys can kind of tell me. You guys can tell me your feelings. I never really felt that Womack lost like the job because he was playing poorly. I think it was because Lenore had taken a jump and they were really taken by him. So it was kind of an embarrassment of riches at that point. It's like I thought Womack was fine. I thought he was fine. I thought he was great in run. I thought he actually improved in that area. But Lenore just showed a little bit more. So I don't think he necessarily lost the job because he was just getting torched over and over, right? Like, sure there was some plays that he needs to clean up, but I don't think he was that bad. Like I think so. Let's see. Jason, do you think Kalia Davis, Marcelino McCrary Ball will have an impact this season? I think Kalia Davis is somebody that they're looking to replicate that DJ Jones role, but again, he'll be rotating with Hargrave and Armstead, and I think that that's a great thing for him because he can learn as he goes along. Again, he was injured, so they kind of took a flyer on him later on. The 49ers have built that kind of luxury by having so many players that can contribute, to have a guy that you draft and just say, hey, you can sit and learn, when you're off an injury. They've built that luxury because the roster's so solid. So I do think that they're going to think that Kalia is going to play. And I think they really like Marcelino McCrary Ball, man. I really think that they like him. We got to get a smaller name for him, like a shorter one. Like, how we have DFF, something like that. But yeah, let's see. Tyler says, I also think Jimmy Ward losing his spot also played a part in moving him to nickel and taking Sam's spot. Yeah, I don't think he lost his spot. I think they just wanted to improve there in terms of the nickel corner, right? Like Jimmy had been a guy who, again, was miscast early on in his career. And then it's funny enough, got turned right back over to that position. Took him a little while to get his footing. But, if you notice when Jimmy was playing free safety, I don't even like to really call it free safety because they just moved them back and forth. When you looked at him, he was down guarding tight ends and he would guard Cooper Kupp at times. So it wasn't something completely foreign to him. I just think that they wanted to solidify the spot. You have a player who is so good in the run game. You have a player who is a thumper like Jimmy Ward. You can't keep him off the field. So you just moved him down and you like what you got from Gibson, who's a solid veteran. I wouldn't say he lost his spot. I would say that them moving him to nickel just speaks to his game and how good he is. So, yeah. Shout out to my guy, Perk. What's up, buddy? Let's see. What do you think about Mock from NDSU, a.k.a. the Missing Fronts? Yeah, I mean, I like him, but I think that a lot of people like him just because of his versatility. So I do see him going up a little bit higher unless the 49ers really identify him. The guy that I'm kind of on and Brad's got me on, he's got some things that he needs to clean up is Blake Freeland, 6'7". It's just got to get those pads a little bit lower. A dog in the run game, though, can literally get off his block, get to the second level, and he's too big and too fat. He's too big to be that fast and be able to get to the second level and put people on their ass and help in the run game as much, especially if it's Lance is starting. You're definitely going to see an uptick in running from not only the quarterback, but, yeah, the running backs as well, too. So, yeah, it depends, but I really, really like Blake Freeland. I think that's somebody who, if they really want to target him and they really want to go up and get him, they can. I mean, 6'7", man. He's huge. Let's see. All right. Do you think we will sign any? Do you think we will sign and restructure anyone else? Okay. So they're definitely going to sign more people. Like I kind of threw out the Justin Houston thing, which will happen probably towards the end of free agency once the market develops. I definitely could see a restructure of, let's see, they've done Warner, they've done Mooney. Who's a younger guy? McCaffrey. Somebody like that. I don't know about Trent because there is him playing for 2 more years is what he's saying. You don't want to restructure that, put that out there, things like that. Like, you don't want to extend his contract. Either McCaffrey or Kittle, depending on who it is that they view as a long-term. So, yeah, man, I think, honestly, at this point, it's really about who they view as the guy that they can keep around for the longest, right? So that's it. So Debo restructure, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. It could be. But yeah. Do we see any surprise trades exporting talent for picks? Depends. Really depends, Corey. Depends on what this trade would net. Who who you can get. What are you giving away, right? I don't know. The 49ers, they've been making more trades lately. Obviously, McCaffrey and, Emmanuel Sanders a few years ago jumps right out at you. But I don't know about surprise trades, and it depends, what they'll be giving up. I mean, if the 49ers hold tight, they've got a first-round pick next year. You guys remember what that feels like? And we'll be able to scout grade A talent again? Can't wait. So if you're going to be moving one of those picks, I would hope it be for someone who's going to be an impact player for a long time. Because then you take the lottery of the draft out of the equation and you get a known commodity. So I think it just depends. I don't know if I see any surprise trades. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't know. Perk says, I love all the moves they made so far. I'm iffy about one, though, but I understand why they did it. Either way, let's ride. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're still missing a kicker. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think everything else is pretty much set. They just need to continue to build depth at the edge position. And I think that's something that'll definitely happen. Yeah, I'm glad you guys got that joke off. I mean, I want this kicker thing resolved for two reasons. I want them to get a veteran kicker, sign him so we can be done with talking about it. I'd actually love Robbie Gould to come back so everybody can just stop talking about it. And then we can stop having a discussion about using draft capital for kickers. I don't want that to happen. That would really make me upset. Take a chance on football players, on actual football players. So 41 minutes in, 202 people in here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. If anything else happens tonight, I probably won't be hesitant to jump back on, especially if it's something big. So there's a lot of really good names still out there available in free agency. A lot of good names that the 49ers still have that they can return. Again, 49er fans are going to be like, oh, again, when they get the notification, Kerry Hyder's back, Jordan Willis is back, and you're like, oh, that's not a splash. But again, you need rotational players. You need rotational players and you need solid players, guys who have ties to Kocurek. And remember, Jordan Willis should be a lifetime Niner for sending the 49ers to the NFC Championship in Green Bay. That man should not have to pay for a drink in the Bay Area ever again. That is one of the biggest moments in 49er postseason history. So Jordan Willis, man, I'd be pretty sad if he left just based on that. And then you throw in the fact that he was very effective when he would roll around. So yeah. Let's see. Take a few more. Let's see. Greatness. I think if the 49ers don't sign anyone else or small depth pieces, then they would use all their draft picks and move up or down. Thoughts? Yeah, for sure. Move up. Again, target a guy, move up. You've got 5 comp picks again next year. Use them to move up into the next round. Do it. I understand those comp picks are going to be at the end of the round because the 49ers likely are going to be good and they're going to have a good record and go deep into the playoffs. I understand that. But yes, identify a player, go get him. Byron Young is somebody who I want from Tennessee. If you could find a way and he slides a little bit, and you find a way to move up and get him, put him at edge, have him be a rotational guy with Drake Jackson, my goodness, now we're cooking. Excuse me. So, yeah, absolutely, greatness. Absolutely. Shout out to my guy, Dawson. Shout out to R. Davis, 243 in here and only 43 likes. What are we doing here? And you know who's coming back. Dante Johnson is a certainty. Run it, dread it, run from it, dread it. He still arrives. He will never go. Never. Lifetime 49er. 100%. Can't wait for Dante Johnson to return, man. So, let's see. Who should we get who should we target that we can actually get? I like Justin Houston. I like the idea of, I really wanted Arden Key, but he got paid. That's gone. Somebody who can play slot, Trey Herndon. Even, I know you guys probably don't want to hear this. Marcus Peters for 1 year in a slot. When you think about all the pieces and what you can do in terms of edge, 1 year. Again, a lot of these signings that you're going to see later on at the end of free agency are when it's going to be guys who are 1 year deals who can come in and help you try to win a ring. That's it. So yeah, I like the idea of now you can use your draft picks. You can go get guys again who are going to sit a year behind starters, and you have a plan, but you can bring in 1 year guys, Justin Houston, Marcus Peters. I know they're both Ravens, but like there's going to be players out there, Calais Campbell. There's going to be players out there that you can sit there and say, man, nobody wants these guys. Why? Well, it's because if you're a non-competing team, why would you bring a player like that in? But if you are a team that's close or a team that can be an attractive fit or somewhere where they can look and say, I can get 1 more year, that's where you got to go, I think. So again, I think the 49ers have one more big move in there where it's an impact name. And then I think everything else that you're going to see is like Kerry Hyder, Jordan Willis, and these 1 year guys at the end. And then the draft is really where you're going to see how hungry they are, because if you've addressed everything, if we walk away going into the draft saying this team has all of the edge players they need to dominate, the great rotation, we have all of it. We feel great about it. Feel great about Drake Jackson. Justin Houston's here behind him. We feel great about Jordan Willis and Kerry Hyder being here to be inside, outside, help with his defensive line. You feel good about Calais Davis. Then you can go best player available and get greedy in the draft because you're not addressing needs. A lot of teams sometimes find themselves in bad spots because they're outright addressing needs. Like when a team goes into a draft and the whole league knows they need to fill this spot, it kind of helps you understand the board. But when you go best player available, you can start to really get greedy and insulate yourself, and it starts to really give you flexibility that you never thought you would have. So free agency is going to be very telling as it goes on, how much more and what the 49ers will be doing in the draft. I think that's a bunch of like what we're missing right now is just a little bit more in terms of free agency. So shout out to all you guys in here, man. 189 people. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. If you guys are enjoying the afternoon report, I'll continue to do it. This is the second day in a row. I feel like as long as there's news to be talked about, free agency, things like that, and as long as we're not rehashing the quarterback controversy that's brewing, I guess, or the quarterback situation where it's almost like beating a dead horse until we get to camp, then I love doing this. So if you guys let me know, just keep going. Like you got to let me know. Like if you guys want me to keep going, just say, hey, let's do this tomorrow. Let's do this the day after. I'm with it. So yeah, man, shout out to you guys. I appreciate you guys. It's 1 o'clock, 1:48 on the West Coast. And you guys are tapped in with me. So it's really cool, man. Appreciate you guys. Channel would be nothing without you guys. If you guys don't have any other questions, maybe I'll take a few more questions, maybe 10 more minutes, because I got to get back to work for Niners Nation. So I'm seeing okay, so DFF isn't coming back. Okay, so then it definitely is Marcelino McCrary ball for sure. Let's see. Joel's watching in Guam. That's awesome. Marcelino McCrary ball is definitely a part of their plans. So again, in base downs, it's going to be Greenlaw, Warner, and him. But again, I just with the way the league is going, it's going to be hard for them to stay in base. Like they're going to have to bring in Nichols. So again, we'll figure out what that is. But I know they really like him, and he's very fast. So hey pal, JC's here. What's up, buddy? Perk, glad to catch you on live. Like always, great, humble listen. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Jason, for doing the afternoon reports. Really enjoying it. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions about players, anything like that, I'll do my best to answer them. But I'm surprised that we're able to get almost 50 minutes of content out there, especially with the 49ers only do right now in terms of the free agency was like really today was just who was it? It was just Clean and Farrell. Let's see. Right tackle draft or free agency? I vote draft. Free agency's kind of dried up. I don't know. You guys can let me know. I don't think McGarry's out there. I don't think McGarry's out there anymore. I don't know. If he is, he's still going to cost something because it's funny. So many people are like, oh, I want McGlinchey gone. I want McGarry. McGarry's really good in the run, and he's kind of bad in pass pro. So you'd be getting another Mike McGlinchey. I think that's the funniest part. McGarry is like up there with Mike, though, in terms of run blocking. Though. He's up there, 100%. But I just think it's kind of funny that people are just banging the table for McGarry. And I'm just like, man, all right, he resigned. Okay, cool. But it was just kind of funny that was the name that everybody was throwing out there that I'm just like, you're gonna be in a similar spot if you do get that. Let's see. Joel, any word on our redshirt rookies that will show out this year? I think it's Calais Davis. I think that's the guy that you see right away. I think it's Calais Davis, and I think Nick Sikel is a guy that's going to be versatile, can play a little bit of guard, play a little bit of center, somebody that they may use in that run skill role. But those would be my two votes right there as far as red shirts to go that are going to be playing this year. I really think that they like Kalaya Davis and what he can do. When you hear the DJ Jones comp and you know how effective he was when he played, it seems like they want him to be more of like a run stopper. And again, when you look at defensive tackle, as of right now, it's Hargrave, Kinlaw, Armstead, and Kalaya Davis, unless I'm missing someone else. So let's see. What's good, Spicy Aponte? Peace and love, good sir. We're killing free agency to me. I like the optimism. I really do, man. I like the optimism. And Raphael, let me know. McGarry re-signed with Atlanta. Let's see. Why do you think CJ Gardner-Johnson is still available? Price, and he can set his own market. He's highly sought after. See, when you're highly sought after, you don't have to jump at the first, move, right? Like you don't have to jump at it. You can take your offer, say, okay, thank you. Then you go to other teams. This is what they're offering. This is what I'd like. You have your chance, right? So there's a lot of talent out there, and I don't think there's being 3 days into this and about 52 minutes into the new league year is an indictment on anybody who's not signed yet. I think if anything, those guys are worth waiting around for, and they're worth taking their time because they have a bunch of time. And again, we're still at a point right now where teams are still cutting people, right? They have to make hard decisions to get under the cap. You got to make a cut here. You got to do this. You got to do that if you want to space out money for somebody else. So you're still going to see markets develop for guys that you didn't think was going to be a free agent, right? Levante Davis signed right back for a 1-year deal. He was out there for a little while, right? So it's still a little bit of give and take when it comes to all of those things. But I think when you're a highly sought after free agent, you take your time and you get as many offers as you can. And I'm sure he's got offers pouring in, if you ask me. Right? So, hey, Mike, we were just playing. Come on back. So, this is a good question. I don't know that. Is Honey Badger still available? I don't know. My question would be just where would they use him? Would they want to bring him down and be a nickel? I don't know about that. I don't think he's as great as when people wanted him, and I don't think he's as cooked as people would say he is at this point. So I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe somebody else knows, but I definitely can't say off the top of my head right now. So Burford needs to take a leap. Yeah, I think that's kind of what they're expecting too, Jedi. I think they're Brunskill was there to kind of stop him from being overwhelmed. And that was the oddest thing for me, was seeing that, because coach was just saying, we just want to give him some snaps and and like he never really fully explained what the plan was. So we had to kind of surmise what he was doing on our own. And I just think that it worked. It worked, right? You saw flashes from Burford. You saw times where you were like, oh man, but then he never really had a chance to get into his own head because Brunskill was there right behind him and continued to play. So and then Yannick Ngakoue, like I kind of talked about it. I think it was kind of telling that they gave Ebukam the bag and didn't bring him back. But he, again, Raphael, if you're watching this process play out, and then more and more as the names thin out, you can only ask for a 1-year deal at certain points, right? So that's the thing, is like, I think the 49ers strategy is we target the guy we want, Hargrave. We understand that we're going to get priced out of these guys, but we have a plan for 1-year guys, Justin Houston, maybe Yannick Ngakoue, maybe, I forget, there's another name out there that I really like. I just can't remember right now. Maybe all of those guys come on 1-year deals, and then you use some of your draft capital to move up. And you move up and you go and you get him, an edge guy in the draft. And that's the thing, is I think they have a good patient plan. They're still working around money. And I still think it's very early. It's only day 3. Yesterday was just a hard day to just say, damn, we couldn't get Omenihu, Ebukam, or Arden Key. We couldn't grab one of them. But they all got paid. And that's really where the crux of it is just the pricing. It's just out there. So Carsad, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, 49. Aponte, Jalen Carter sliding down tremendously due to off-field concerns and bad pro day. With the Niners' potential, look up and go for him. Let me tell you something. Jalen Carter is going to be, when we look back on the draft, if he falls out of the top 10, which I don't see Chicago letting him slide out of 9. He falls out of the top 10 and somehow just tumbles in this draft. Whoever drafts him, we're going to look back at this draft and say, wow, we overthought it. Everyone overthought the process. Everyone. Jalen Carter was going to be number 1 in certain mocks, right? Like that you saw. I mean, if the 49ers were able to get Jalen Carter, oh my God. the flexibility, man. I mean, there could be times where Jalen Carter could be next to Hargrave and you can move Armstead outside. Like, the possibilities would be endless. I just don't see that happening. I had him fall into Seattle at 5 after the off-field, because I was at the combine the day that he was supposed to speak, and everyone was around his podium, and obviously they didn't let him speak because that was the day the police report came out. And then obviously you hear today that he came out and he had a 9, he came in 9 pounds and over. You have to think that the young man is stressed right now, right, with the whole thing. That's another thing that's kind of playing a part into it. But I had him at Seattle at 5. If Seattle balks at it, which I don't think they are, and God, please, I hope they do, because I don't want to see him next to Draymond Jones and they just got Jerome Reed back. I don't want to see that. That's not what I want to see. But he won't fall past 9. The Bears won't let him slide. The Bears have done an incredible job. They recouped a ton for the number 1 pick. They got a number 1 wide receiver. They have a chance to get somebody like Jalen Carter, and they've been building up their line. I don't think he falls past 9. But I do think that if he does slide, we are going to look back on the draft, and Jalen Carter is going to be a stud, and we're going to look around and say, man, every single one of these teams overthought it. And I understand the hardest thing to do is to scout the person, right? Do you look at the off-field stuff as, this was a young man. He's going to be able to grow under us. We're going to be able to take care of him. We're going to keep him out of trouble. Do you think that? That's something that when you take chances on players like that and they don't pan out and they do cause problems, people lose their jobs over it. So while I'm sitting here saying that I think people are overthinking it, I do not understate how hard it is to scout the player, scout the person, and invest a high draft capital when your job's on the line. So I don't know why I just went on this whole long rant about Jalen Carter, but I do think the 49ers, if somehow he's available in the middle of the back end of the second round, because that's really where that's the only place the 49ers can get. They're not going to be able to get into the first unless they want to just give away first-round picks next year, which please don't do that, 49ers. I would love to scout first-round talent. Again, I miss it. It'd be pretty fun. But if he somehow fell so far that everyone was hands-off, yes, absolutely. I think the 49ers would absolutely jump at the chance. Because at that point, the investment is so small. It's not your first-round pick. It's a second-round pick, even if you did give up some of those comp picks. But I don't think he makes it past the Bears. I just don't. I think it's too good. And I think that right now, you have to understand the human element behind all of these things that are happening to him right now. He's going through something right now. The immense guilt of a person, losing their life. I don't really want to talk about the case because I don't have all the details, all those things. Everybody's saying, he's off the field stuff, from a guy who was going largely in a lot of drafts, to have all of this around him now. You bet your ass he's a little bit stressed and he probably put on some weight. So, I mean, it's tough to say. I would take a chance on a young man. I would. But I don't make those decisions. I also wouldn't draft a 4th-round punter. All right, I had to get that last one in. All right, almost an hour in here, 210 people in here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Shout out to all of you guys, man. Appreciate you so much. Everybody that was in here, again, almost 210 people in here right now, almost an hour of content. Again, if the 49ers make some moves and they sign someone, that is well worth talking about, I'll go right back on at the end of the night and I'll hop back on and talk with you guys. But until then, as always, enjoy the rest of your day and go Niners. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.